Obviously, Wright State is a tremendous offensive team. Consistently, just kill their efficiencies and their shooting percentages and their balance, and you saw it all on display. And obviously disappointed in our fight to start the game. To be able to try to dig out some stops, and led to a ugly night for us.
How do you change that start moving forward? I mean, they were 9 of 9. I mean, how do you disrupt them
They're
shooting?
11 for 12. The other, it's not the first time they've done it. It's just disappointing that we talk about that going into the game, and we can't try to negate it. And it's like a couple of those situations, where we're just like, not back in transition, not communicating. Just again, if you go, balls to the wall and you run out of gas at some point in time, and their offense just, kind of, breaks your defense down. But to not give any resistance at the start is frustrating. So I don't know how you change it. If I could, I would.
What do you do to move forward and build upon that?
I don't know, because obviously, that we've had performances where we've done better, and obviously they're an incredible offensive team. I mean, that's some of our defensive issues certainly are a frustration, and we're not up to par when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, and then it gets magnified when you play against a team that just picks apart really every one of your weaknesses, and they just consistently, every chink in your armor, each possession, wherever that breakdown occurs, they just attack it, and they're just able to get the ball to the right place, and then they're able to convert it. There's some teams that are able to get it to certain places and they're not able to finish. All their guys are able to finish, whether it's from 2 or 3.
Yeah, wrapping up the game, 2 turnovers on back-to-back possessions. Did you think that was just the trend this game was going to go for your team tonight, just the sloppy offensive possessions?
And they're not a team that, creates a ton of turnovers, and I think 3 of our first 4 possessions were basically turnovers, and we had 11 for the game. It's like something that we talked about. Like, you can't hurt yourself by robbing yourself of offensive possessions, like we did tonight, and it's the message doesn't seem to be getting through, so we're probably not delivering it properly.
Where does Wright State's offense rank among some of the ones you've seen this year and in other years? I mean, they just seem to move really quickly. A lot of chaos, on the offensive side, a lot of switches, and you guys a lot of times just got lost and couldn't, fill in on those switches and stuff like that.
They play the game the way it's supposed to be played. They obviously have a lot of experience. Holden and Calvin are 5th-year seniors, and Braun started virtually every game of his career. Noel's a 4th-year sophomore, right? So they have a lot of experience. They have a lot of understanding of what they're doing and executing, and it shows. And then there's a great willingness and unselfishness about how they play. 26 assists, they had 19 assists and 1 turnover in the first half. I mean, it helps when you make the shots for the assists, but the ball moves to the right place, because at the end of the day, they all score.
There were a couple spurts, especially in the second half, where it felt like you guys might have been able to string together. Do you think it was the fact that they had created such a big lead that just made it so hard to overcome, or why couldn't you string together more spurts like that?
Because they're good. Obviously they did create a big lead, and anytime we put a couple stops together, you just felt like you were putting, a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, and eventually they're going to score on the next possession, right? And it just, we didn't have the requisite fight necessary to be able to stand up and handle all the challenges that they present as an offensive team.
Coach, what was the message at halftime? Coming into or starting the second half, I feel like your team had a little bit more intensity to them to open up the game, and they made it, for the second half standards, it was a close game than the first half.
Yeah, what are you about? I mean, it's just it's a pride check at that point. The fact that the pride thing doesn't start earlier as a frustration, but that was the message. Like, I don't know if some of their first half offensive numbers could have been accomplished if we didn't have any players out there on defense. Like when you shoot 71% and 80% from three and you have 19 assists and 1 turnover, like that's like basically dummy offensive segment in a practice. And so that was the challenge. What are you about? Do you have any individual or collective pride in how you perform in a game?
You brought Ben in a little bit earlier in that second half. Then normally you would see him come and check into a game. Was that just sort of like a message to some of the players that have been out there, or what was the thought behind that?
Trying to find a spark, trying to find something that can kind of maybe get us going. Whether it's a guy playing a few less minutes or Ben giving us a lift out there. I thought some guys were also fatigued from the pace of the game, and so we needed to get some bodies. And with Trey and Alfredo being out, it was Ben got an opportunity to go out there and see what he could do.
Are there any good things that you can take away from this game?
I haven't really thought about that. Not that I can think of as of right now.
What were your thoughts on Steph's game? Seemed like for a majority of it, he was the only truly inspired person out there trying to make plays, 18 points, 8 rebounds, but also did have a couple turnovers. I mean, just thought on his performance.
Yeah, I thought he did some really good stuff. It just, we need somebody to kind of pull everybody else along. And, he obviously shot the ball well from the perimeter, from the free throw line. I thought he was active. I thought he was trying to communicate and do a lot of really positive things. And so that was good to see, but got to figure out why we can't get some more contributions consistently from everyone. I mean, we haven't played in 6 days. You think you'd be like excited to go out there and you'd be energized and ready to go, and we were asleep.
Coach, how many times can you during the season say we just got to get back to the drawing board before something gets fixed?
As many times until they tell you to stop. What else are you gonna do? You gotta keep trying to do the right thing and fight the good fight and promote the right things and tell guys the truth. And until somebody tells me I can't do it anymore and we gotta take the whistle from you, you gotta keep fighting, you gotta keep trying, you gotta keep pushing, you gotta keep hoping that at some point in time we're gonna find a little bit of consistency or find a group of guys that care enough to be able to defend.
Any status you can share on Alfredo and Trey?